we can talk about other like things around like a 90-day retention rate, which is quite a common metric, I think, in like D2C type e-commerce businesses, which is to say, of all the people who buy for the first time, how many of them are going to buy again in the next 90 days? Right. And how many of them are going to buy in the next 180 days? Now, how do you decide what period is good for you? Like, what, I'm just using 90 here. Like, okay, but that's kind of arbitrary. What we would say is we've got the data to say, how long does it take between the first and the second order? Right? What's the distribution of orders? Some people are going to do some in the first 7 days. Some people are going to do days 30 to 60. But roughly what we would say is when about 80% of the people who would have bought twice have already done so, that's the purchase cadence, right? Like that's sort of the time period. And generally speaking, if you're talking about food and drink, and supplements and things like that, a 90-day period for most brands, you're going to have covered off about 80% of those repeat orders. Perhaps to illustrate this point, I've got a sort of counter example, which is we have a customer that sells water filters, and they only sell multi-packs, right? And so people are only expected to buy once a year. And so looking at something like a 90-day lifetime value or a 90-day retention rate makes no sense because people are just not expected to buy, right? It only makes sense to look at this when people are expected to buy again. And in this case, it's 12 months, right? As an extreme example.
Well, I mean, two major takeaways from this part of the conversation is, first and foremost, there is no such thing as a standard lifetime value measurement or expectations, mainly because the answer is it depends. It depends on the category. What kind of products are you selling?
Yes.
Like
yes.
As you were talking, I was thinking myself, what is it
Absolutely.
that I buy several times from the same seller? And you know what came to mind? Pistachio nuts. So I have a seller on Amazon, and I buy it all the time. And I buy, they have it in 1 pound, 2 pound, and 5 pound bags. And I usually buy the 5 pound bag. And so, and I can see, it's always, but the 1 pound, it's not so much the size of the bag, but it's usually the bigger bag. But of course, that means that it's much longer in between purchases.
Exactly.
So the bottom line is, depending on your category, and within that category, depending on your SKU, every seller must decide for themselves how they will measure their lifetime value. What would make sense?
In terms of, it's perhaps not so much how much they will measure the LTV, but what time frame makes sense.
That's what I meant.
Yes,
that's what I meant.
It's the time frame thing. So, for instance, our tool will also give you the information around what people buy next, right? So, people who first buy product A and they buy again from you, are they buying product A again, or are they buying products B, C, and D? And that could be a variation. It could be your example. They start off with 1 pound and then go to the 5 pound, or it could be in health and beauty, for instance. There's a lot of just cross-selling, right? They start off with hand cream, then they go to face cream, right? And so that's not a variation. That's just literally something different. Whereas stuff like, let's say, supplements, we would have people perhaps just starting off on a 30-day supply of supplements, but by the second or third order, they like it and they've gone to the 120-day supply of supplements, stuff like that. So, looking at each individual brand needs to understand how often is that happening, and therefore adjust that time window that you should evaluate the LTV.